Hi, if you are a senior leader of an organization, have you ever wondered how you can move your team or organization more effectively? You might also wonder why some leaders are more effective than others. If you are continuously developing yourself and your organization, then Scaling Leadership by Robert Anderson and William Adams is the book for you. Published in 2019, it is based on the author's years of research with a huge international database of senior leaders providing 360-degree written feedback to fellow senior leaders. It is definitely a guide that provides us with clear steps to increase our effectiveness as leaders and to scale our own leadership. The author of Scaling Leadership tackled the complex issue of what makes a great leader and how we can become effective leaders ourselves. Robert Anderson and William Adams point out that leaders must learn to scale themselves by scaling leadership. I believe leaders understand the feeling of leading in this VUCA world. Everything is moving so fast and is more chaotic and unpredictable. Are we able to keep up with this constantly escalating VUCA? It is not enough to be able to cope with volatility and unpredictability. The new normal is either rise to meet the challenge or get swamped. Therefore, we have to reflect on our own leadership. Is our leadership built to scale in the VUCA environment? We must develop a new level of leadership literacy, mastery, and agility. We need to shift from VUCA, VUCA, to SCSC, meaning stability, certainty, simplicity, and clarity. The complexity of the context we face as leaders makes a demand on our consciousness, our complexity of mind and heart, our inner game, and our internal operating system. Our inner game refers to the complexity and structure of our internal meaning-making system, our decision-making system, our level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence, our mental models, and the inner beliefs and assumptions by which we define and deploy ourselves moment to moment. However, according to the authors, for most of us, our inner game lacks the capacity and maturity to thrive amid all the complexity. In the words of Anderson and Adams, we are running an internal operating system that is not complex enough for the complexity we face. This is our development gap. Therefore, the rate of our leadership development, individually and collectively, must at least keep pace with the rate of change and escalating complexity. When we start working on our effectiveness as leaders, we begin to improve our effectiveness as a human being. Humanity is the foundation of leadership. Leaders bring the weather. When a great leader walks into the room, everyone notices the energy is palpable. As leaders bring the weather, they define to a large degree what can and can't happen in their organizations. The weather here refers to the leader's profile in action. Every leader has a leadership profile. As explained in Scaling Leadership, the weather that we bring is the way we show up to our people. how we tend to respond to certain situations or crises, what is and is not permissible to discuss, and much more. The author's research is conducted through the Leadership Circle Profile LCP as shown here. This optimal LCP is derived from the responses given by 50,000 leaders and employees worldwide in describing ideal leadership. The profile shows an important consensus view of what great leadership looks like. The LCP is divided into two hemispheres, the upper and the lower. The upper half is labeled as creative and the lower as reactive. In the outer creative half of the circle, 18 creative competencies are displayed. These competencies tend to arise naturally as we move into the creative level of leadership. What about reactive leadership? The lower half of the circle comprises of 11 reactive tendencies. These are the go-to strengths on which we habitually rely when we feel under pressure. When we run our strengths reactively, we often create unintended consequences that limit our effectiveness. When we deploy a strength reactively, we often cancel the strength and introduce liabilities in its place. One interesting point is that reactive leaders can and do get results, sometimes extraordinary results. These leaders may be extraordinary as a leader. However, they often leave behind them a trail of broken, disenchanted, and disengaged employees, peers, and other stakeholders who feel pushed, coerced, pressured, or let down. Reactive leaders create an unhealthy or else ultimatum culture that brings burnout and diminishing return over time. This research reveals that when reactive tendency increase, creative competencies tend to decrease. Reactive leadership can severely limit the full deployment of creative competencies, thus resulting in reduced leadership effectiveness. Reactive leadership shuts down the valuable insights and contributions of employees while diminishing organizational capacity and capability. Creative leadership, on the other hand, opens up employee contribution, thus increasing the organization's capacity and capability. Now, something for us to ponder. How do we lead? Reactively or creatively? There are 6 right conditions required to scale leadership. They are creative leadership, deep relationship, radically human, system awareness, purposeful achievement, and generative tension. The first condition, creative leadership, is essential as the most effective response to escalating complexity to create a more agile, innovative, adaptive, engaging, high performance, and high fulfillment culture and organizational structure. Creative leaders raise the game of everyone around them. They know when to be a member of the team, when to participate, when to open the door for others, and when to lead by providing direction. They inspire others to perform at their best. Creative leaders create commitment and loyalty to the organization and its mission. They also create an honest, open, authentic, optimistic, generative, and innovative culture where the best ideas can emerge, be implemented, and where everyone is encouraged to develop. The second condition for scaling is deep relationship. Deep relationship is more than a means to scale, yet scale depends on it. Scale is achieved by multiplying our talent through and with others, which only happens in deep relationship. Great leaders foster deep relationship. The deeper the relationship, the more solid are the foundations for scale. Great leaders genuinely love and care about the people they work with and who work for them. Work becomes joyful when we persevere together in relationships that nurture and challenge us. Deep relationship unlocks human imagination, which is a critical factor to scale. Deep relationship also allows leadership teams to persevere together. The third condition is radically human. Great leadership demands that we exhibit vulnerability with people around us with an unusual degree of humility, self-awareness, courage, and integrity. We need to shift from knowing to learning and from controlling to empowering. System awareness is the next condition for scale. Highly creative leaders think big picture. They see and design systems for higher, more durable, and more agile performance in the VUCA world. Organizations need to be designed for engagements, adaptability, innovation, agility, and scaling leadership, but typically they are not. We cannot scale leadership without institutionalizing supportive, challenging feedback systems for development. The fifth condition is purposeful achievement. Great leaders are driven by purpose. They turn those purpose into a clear, lofty strategic vision that translates into strategy and execution. They also catalyze alignment by channeling the aspirations and dreams of those who work for and with them. The condition of purposefulness is required by every one of the other conditions. It is the beating heart of creative leadership, the motivation to develop oneself authentically, vulnerably, and radically. In the presence of a powerful purpose and compelling vision, people and systems evolve. It is a condition for leadership at scale. The sixth condition is generative tension. Tension is a component in each of the conditions. There is generative tension in the gap between our aspirations and our current reality. Great leaders cultivate this tension at every level. They establish it by committing to what matters most and compassionately telling the truth about the current situations. All leaders have strengths as well as weaknesses, even the best leaders. Based on written comments in the research, these are the 10 most strongly endorsed strengths of high creative leaders. Strong people skills, visionary, team builder, personable or approachable, leads by example, passion and drive, good listener, develops people, empowers people, positive attitude. As we scan the list and compare scores, we can see large differences between high creative and high reactive leaders. When the scores for both lists are averaged, the top 10 strengths are mentioned 2.3 times more often for high creative leaders than for high reactive leaders. The biggest gaps between high reactive and high creative leaders are in the areas of people skills, listening, team building, and leading by example. The gaps are a little smaller but still substantial in calm presence, empowering people, acting with integrity, and leading with vision. When we look at the written comment data, it's skewed toward relationship, suggesting that effective leadership is about leading people. When we combine these people strengths with the other high creative endorsed strength of passion, vision, authenticity, and a calm, approachable presence, that is the recipe for creating conditions for scaling leadership. Now, what about high reactive leaders? Do they have strengths too? The answer is definitely yes. They do have tremendous strengths too. Here are the top 10 strengths of high reactive leaders listed in rank order. Drive and passion, visionary, strong networker, domain or technical knowledge, results focused, intelligent or brilliant, strong people skills, creative or innovative, personable or approachable, positive attitude. The three largest gaps between high creative and high reactive leaders were strong people skills, good listener, and team builder. The narrowest gaps between high reactive and high creative leaders were passion and drive, intelligent and brilliant, creative and innovative, thorough and hardworking. High reactive leaders lead with non-differentiating strengths. This means the strengths that don't differentiate between the most effective and least effective leaders. These non-differentiating strengths comprise the bulk of strengths for which the high reactive leaders are endorsed. That's why we need to understand that not all strengths are equal as they relate to leadership. If we overplay certain strengths, we get in our own way. We block our effectiveness as a leader. Leading from non-differentiating strengths is not scalable, or perhaps at least they scale only to a point. They are necessary but insufficient to leadership. The non-differentiating strengths are about getting results through one's own drive and capability. However, they are not about scaling capacity and capability in others and in organization. When you are leading and driving results primarily through your own individual capability, your leadership has a built-in limit to scale. In fact, you are the limit to scale. As human beings, no one is perfect. We all have limits and liabilities. However, we all have the ability to evolve and turn our weaknesses and liabilities into strengths and assets. Here are the top 10 high reactive leader liabilities in order from the most frequently endorsed to least. Do you have any of this? Ineffective interaction style. Not a team player. Team not fully developed. Over-demanding. Micromanagers. Team not held accountable. Inattentive or poor listener. Too self-centric. Lacks emotional control. Impatient. We notice that the top 10 high creative strengths is loaded with people strengths. Conversely, the top 10 high reactive liability list is all about poor human interactions. Those liabilities are the opposites of deep relationship and radical humanity. It is also highly unlikely to inspire purposeful achievement. In the LCP, the top half represent creative and the bottom half is reactive. The horizontal axis runs from relationship to task. The left half measures how you are in relationship with yourself and others. The right half measures how you engage tasks. In terms of relationship, a leader can manage people creatively with high self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and in a manner that engages, empowers, and brings out the best in people, teams, and organizations. Or a leader can engage in a reactive way, giving up too much power in pursuit of harmony and the need to be accepted. In terms of tasks, a leader can manage tasks creatively, purpose-driven, and vision-focused, translating into effective execution on results and systemic improvement. Or a leader can manage a task reactively by taking up too much power and becoming over-controlling, micromanaging, and driving the organization and people beyond sustainable limits. The LCP measures the balances between task and relationship strengths. The ability to lead people creatively and focus them on purposeful task accomplishment is a key to effective leadership that scales. When leaders or the entire leadership organizations experience the cancelling effect, their strengths are cancelled out by their liabilities. As a result, their leadership cannot and does not scale. In this picture, we notice that the leader is driven and passionate, but ineffective in his interaction style. Visionary and strategic, but not a team player. Each of the high reactive strength is cancelled out by a corresponding liability, and the endorsement scores are almost equal. This is the cancelling effect in action. Given how talented you are to have made it to the senior leadership and making a significant contribution to the organization, a high reactive leader neutralizes all the good work done. The primary reasons for failure of vision and strategy is ineffective leadership, both individual and collective. High creative leaders have liabilities, but they are overshadowed by the amplification effect that has happened to their leadership effectiveness. creative leaders amplify their multiple and effectiveness. Reactive leaders get the same amplification effect, but it works in the opposite direction. So, how leaders scale leadership? You have to take it beyond yourself. Step 1. Start with yourself. Take a deep look within yourself to understand your strengths and liabilities as a leader. Review LCP and see where you sit in the spectrum between creative and reactive, and relationship and task. Specifically, be aware, acknowledge the gap, harvest your feedback. Focus on one big thing. Reach out for help. Step 2. Develop leadership teams. Once you have an understanding of your own strengths and liabilities as a leader, the next step is to shift the focus to your leadership teams. Specifically, lead the development agenda. Assess individual and collective effectiveness. Get the right people in place. Build alignment around what matters. Step 3. Build leadership systems. Create long-term organizational change that will survive the test of time. Specifically, create developmental organization, focus on measuring results, institutionalize development agenda. The universal model of leadership integrates most of the best theory and research on leadership and development over the last 70 years. It integrates this knowledge into a model that captures something universal about leadership and how it develops. A pathway to improve your leadership competencies and evolve your own leadership is up and across. Up means making the shift from reactive to creative leadership. For others, it means moving from creative into integral leadership. Up always means upgrading your internal operating system to match the complexity of the challenges we face in leadership now and in the future. Across means optimizing the balance between the yin and yang of leadership, the feminine and masculine, and relationships and tasks, thus moving toward better balance and greater optimization. The universal pathway of development is up and across. The first move is vertical, and the second is to augment your core capability with a complementary competency. The core of reactivity is identity. We define ourselves by having to be seen or experienced in a certain way to know ourselves as good, worthy, and successful. The universal model of leadership maps out 3 different core types of leaders, each organizing their identity around a different corresponding leadership strength. Heart, people strengths; mind, intellectual strengths; will, result strengths. Each of us is a unique combination of heart, mind, and will. However, one of these usually dominates, either people-oriented, idea-oriented, or result-oriented. We tend to organize around one and make it core to our identity. We have to be seen as nice, likable, agreeable, supportive, that's the heart, smart, wise, brilliant, analytical, that's the head, or as the one who drives results and get things done, that's the will. We tend to overuse, overextend, and overplay our strengths until it becomes a liability. This also means some of the strengths are underdeveloped, which brings in more liabilities. When reacting under threat or pressure, we default to our strength. Hence, 3 types of reactive leaders emerge: complying, it's the heart, protecting, the head, controlling, the will. As reactive leaders cancel themselves out, they remove or cancel their gift that introduces competing liabilities, and this does not scale. An important step in closing your development gap is to drop into your reactive self to understand the strengths and weaknesses that comes with your type. Heart-centered leaders move towards others to form relationships and build their character around their gift of heart. They are relationship-oriented. Their core belief is, I am okay if you like, love, and accept me. In their version of playing not to lose, they pursue safety over purpose by tending to give up too much power because they want to be liked. They fear rejection, so they avoid controversy and conflict, tending to complying leadership. Typically, leaders in the high complying group have low scores in achieving, since more power a leader gives up to feel accepted, the less likely he or she will use power to champion a vision. High complying leaders are described as having strong people skills. With this strength removed, we find these leaders as being too reserved, lacking in confidence, insecure, and conflict averse. High complying leaders are described as poor decision makers, lacking vision, not holding team members accountable, disengaged, not being a team player, and lacking passion. They are caring human beings. People love being around them. However, they undermine their relationship by being too concerned about relationships. Will-centered leaders are the opposite of heart-centered leaders. If the heart is the yin, will is the yang. Will-type leaders move against others. They compete in order to triumph over others. They take up power and use it to get ahead. Their core strength is their willpower, the inner drive to make things happen, get results, and create what they want. They are born to lead and drive things forward. Their core belief is, I'm okay if I am the one who gets results, am perfect, am moving up, am in charge and in control. They fear failure because failure at anything feels like death. They often seek and gain power at the expense of others. They see others as resources to be used to achieve what they want. They do not delegate, develop teamwork, build trust, or mentors others gracefully. High controlling leaders tend not to excel at relationships and teamwork. High controlling leaders score moderately on passion, drive, and technical or domain knowledge. They were described as visionary, positive, and easy to work with. Others talk about these leaders as having strengths of overdrive, perfectionism, workaholism, excessive ambition. On the negative side, they are described as overcommitted, micromanagers, over-demanding, inflexible, impulsive, and impatient, which effectively becomes liabilities and cancels the strength. Head-type leaders are people who move away from others in rational, analytical distance. Intellectually brilliant and rational, they seek knowledge and truth and identify with those gifts. They establish their sense of worth and security by demonstrating their analytical and critical capabilities. Their self-worth and security depends on others seeing them as smart, knowledgeable, and superior. Their core belief is, I am okay if I am smart, self-sufficient, superior, and above all, can find flaws in others' thinking. Their strength is to remain composed and rational amidst chaos and conflicts, analyzing things from a distance and providing brilliant analysis to complex and conflicting situations. Often experienced as cold, distant, disengaged, overly analytical, critical, and arrogant. Because their core fears are irrelevance and vulnerability, they tend to stay in their heads and provide analysis. They come across as being harshly critical, finding fault and feigning superiority. If complying is yin, controlling is yang, then protecting is neutral, staying calmly and critically above it all. Protecting is opposite to its own core strength of self-awareness, authenticity, and system awareness. High protecting leaders are visionary and strategic, technically strong with good domain knowledge, driven, result-focused, smart and passionate, most of these scores being moderate to low. They are experienced as over-demanding, not clear about where they are heading, inflexible, not holding the team accountable, impulsive, conflict-averse, aloof, and distant. These liabilities largely offset the strengths. They are ineffective in their interaction with others, not team players, play favorites, don't develop their direct reports, and don't listen well. Closing development gaps requires you to move up and across by upgrading your internal operating system, bringing the embedded strengths into a higher order of impact. Moving across to develop underutilized strengths, thereby turning competing liabilities into complementary competencies. The primary development gap leaders face is that they are leading amid a level of complexity that requires creative leadership or higher. Yet, most are leading reactively, which has its limitations. The resulting development gap is adaptive challenge, and the solution requires evolving to a higher order of thinking and being. The development gap we face individually requires that we evolve or fall behind, that organizationally we evolve or become less relevant to our customers, and globally we evolve or perish. We must deconstruct our current level of adult development and reconstruct it at the next higher order of design, a design more fit for purpose in the world of escalating complexity. We notice that the stages of leadership maps to the stages of adult development. The leader circle profile is designed to accelerate a leader's development from one level to the next. Each level of mind and leadership is developmentally more adapted to meet complexity and thrive within it than the one before it. In the shift from reactive to creative, there is a fundamental shift of mind and heart, and this involves three movements from authored by others to authored by self, safety to purpose, ambition to service. The first movement is from a person who is authored by others to one who is authored by self. When we act from a socialized mind, we are more likely to lead and live reactively because our behavior is being authored by outside circumstances and expectations. This means we are living from the outside in. We depend on outside validation for our security and self-esteem. When this happens, we are managing our behavior to meet these expectations of others. We are in a play not to lose situation. Creating outcomes that matter most is the key. What matters most defines the self-authored leaders. Stephen Covey calls this stage independent because they no longer depend on outside validation for self-worth. Creative leaders are focused on living an organization in which they would want their children to work. They are no longer run by fear, playing not to lose, but they are playing on purpose, acting in service to something larger than themselves. Fully self-authored leaders know they have come through a shift in leadership, and they now focus on developing that in others. They have become leader of leaders. By doing so, they are multiplying their leadership by building capacity and capability of others and the organization. Leadership at scale requires self-authored creative leadership. The second movement is from safety to purpose. Both purpose and safety are important. If we ignore safety, we put purpose at risk. If we focus too much on safety, we also put purpose at risk. If we play safe all the time and avoid risk, we won't benefit from the tremendous growth opportunities that reside our comfort zone. If we take too much risk and fail to stay in contact with what is prudent, we put everything risk. The ongoing balance is important. It is never easy to get it just right. You cannot pursue purpose and safety at the same time. Courage is needed to address most of the complex, difficult issues we face. If we play not to lose too often, we are not leading. we are canceling ourselves out. Living on purpose is risky, but paradoxically, by taking the future into our own hands, we create a different kind of safety that comes with creating life and future we were born to create. The third movement, from ambition to service, is interconnected with the first two movements. In this movement, we see a shift from self-centric leadership to a servant leadership model and a drive for personal success towards a commitment to organizational success. This shift enables the leadership to be freed up to scale. It is hard to change deeply grooved patterns in how we show up every day in our lives and our leadership. Change and transformation is only worth the effort if there is something more or higher to gain or create for which our current level of leadership is too small. For any organization's transformation to be successful, we should move from individual leadership development to a collective leadership effectiveness. Effective leaders create the conditions for leadership at scale in themselves, in others, and in the organization by engaging in these four practices that work to establish and hold generative tension. Number 1, tell the truth about what you want. Number 2, tell the truth about how you are creating your current reality. Number 3, rinse and repeat to continue to hold generative tension. And 4th, practice every day. If we do this individually and at an organization level, we increase the chances of generative tension getting resolved by moving our current reality towards our vision. It is about shifting our mindset, upgrading our individual and organizational operating system from reactive to creative, and beyond that to integral. It is how we move up and across, move from cancelling strength to multiplying it and amplifying it. Our world is facing a perilous future and one rife with possibilities. An uncertain future lies ahead. Leadership must evolve. Our state of leadership does not seem to keep up with the challenges, and often we are cancelling ourselves out. We must innovate our ways out of the dilemmas we are creating for ourselves. Are we innovating enough to meet the new world order? If we don't innovate disruptively at an ever-increasing pace, we are in trouble. However, if we do innovate disruptively, we will overwhelm our social fabric. This is complexity. We are now up against an escalating complexity and disruptive change that requires an unprecedented level of innovation, adaptability, scalability, sustainability, resilience, collective intelligence, engagement, empowerment, agility, systemic thinking, and global cooperation. We need all these at scale and every level of scale. All this required an unparalleled level of collective collaboration, innovation, and mature leadership. The future of leadership is integral leadership, creating organizations innovatively designed to scale leadership at every level. to innovate at the pace of change and to thrive amidst complexity. In the transition to integral leadership arising on a self-transforming, meaning-making system, the authentic, visionary, purpose-driven self we have worked so hard to refine goes through yet another metamorphosis, disintegration and reintegration. With this transformation, we become more capable of relation to ourselves as a system and ecology of different selves. The new inner capacity transforms our leadership. We now hold more of the function and dysfunction in the world without blaming, taking sides, or championing our own vision. Together, we innovate new and agile organizational designs that are inclusive, engaging, developmental, and fit for the purpose in the VUCA world. As such, we become the servant and system architect of an emergent future that is our collective welfare. All of this is informed by grace. We trust there is grace enough in the system for us to let go, ask for help, not know, and learn our way forward together. That is the synopsis for Scaling Leadership by Robert Anderson and William Adams. Thank you.